Very warm welcome to everybody to the launch of the toolkit. And I was just when we stopped, I was linking the discussion also with the triple planetary crisis and how important moment it is now, and how this toolkit contributes also to that. No news to none of us in the room is that the behavioral change and the choices, personal individual choices on the lifestyles that we have, is a huge component to it. So how do we act individually within the group, within regional setting, international setting, governments, and so on? It has a very, very big impact. So I'll not talk more because there are honorable guests and colleagues to talk about the toolkit. And I also have the great pleasure to welcome Aurélie Godefroy, the Unit of Environment and Natural Resources at the DG for International Partnerships at the European Commission, my partner in crime, who will talk on the Commission side of this. And I'm sure Aurélie will also bring the European Year of Youth to the table. And of course, we have Peter Vekesa, Senior Officer for Environment and Climate Action in the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States, who will talk further. So Aurélie, I'm passing the floor to you, and it's a great pleasure that you are here with us today.
Thank you very much, Veronica. I hope you can hear me. So first to say that I'm very pleased, of course, to be here. Youth is a priority for the European Commission. And since this session is about engagement, I would like to tell you first how the European Union is engaging on environmental related issues. And you might be aware that we have the European Green Deal that was adopted in 2019, which is our big strategic document to drive Europe towards more sustainability. And this strategy has very ambitious objectives. So one is climate neutrality by 2050, which is not a small issue. The second one is about halting and reversing biodiversity loss, not an easy one as well. And of course, we have objective in terms also of zero pollution. So a great agenda, which is about the environment at the heart, but also about leaving no one behind. So there's an inclusion dimension, which is very important in the green transition, but also a job and competitiveness issue, because we believe that Europe should lead, European company can lead in this transition to show that we can together achieve more sustainability. And to implement those ambitions, of course, we are putting in place policies and regulations, and in all those areas. So some of them that we are preparing for the moment, for example, are on deforestation. So we're preparing a very important piece of legislation to make sure that the products, the commodities we import on EU market are not leading to deforestation. For example, they are not destroying the Amazon. So very concrete, very big pieces of legislation that are put in place so that we implement our objectives. And of course, for that, we have funds because we committed to spend 60%, for example, of our EU budget on climate-related issues. So this is also driven at international level. On preparing the next framework on biodiversity for the next decades. We cannot do it alone for sure. So we are also working hand in hand with our partners across the globe to help them to drive this transition process. And for that, we've also put aside some financial support, and we are very concretely deploying programs, working with governments to better preserve natural resources. So this is extremely important, but we also have to lead by example. So as Commission, just to tell you, we also have a policy to become greener. So for example, no paper policy for bike, mobility, etc. So that also as civil servants, we are delivering on EU commitments. So let me go to maybe something that is more relevant for the session is EU engagement with youth. I was telling you that indeed this is a priority. It's a priority for our Commissioner Urpilainen, since she arrived confirmed that she would like to engage more with youth, and not only inviting you to events, which is nice, but it's a one-off action, but really building a long-term relation so that you can basically have some influence on the decision. So she's put in place a youth sounding board. There was a long selection process of young people representative across the globe. And this young youth sounding board are basically called upon to give some advice on various policies or various actions. And this will last for the whole duration of the mandate of the Commissioner. But beyond that, of course, we have translated this ambition into a very important document, which is a youth action plan that was actually published in October, so it's really new. And it's the same idea, is to say that we have the three main dimensions. One is okay, we want to engage more with the youth, so the strong engagement pillar. We would like to empower youth, so there's also activities that are designed to strengthen leadership of the youth movement, some training, some mobility support, youth-led initiatives. And there's also another pillar which is about defending, for example, youth leaders. Some youth leaders need some support across the world. So there's different actually concrete activities that have been put in place. There's a youth academy, there's a youth democracy program that will, and the youth empowerment fund that will help to implement this youth action plan. We also encourage the programs we have across the world to engage more with youth, and I'm very pleased that with the ACP MEA program and the good cooperation with UNEP and the OACPS, we have organized this event, of course, and we are supporting some young people to empower them in the negotiations for the COP. So this is great success. Of course, the last element that I cannot help mentioning, of course, is the European Union is recruiting young people like stagiaire or young professional. So if you are interested, I also invite you to use this possibility, because it's I've been myself a stagiaire intern in the Commission, and it's a great opportunity. It's certainly one of the best ways to drive the change from inside. So on that, I would thank you, and I'm very pleased to pass the floor to my counterpart, Peter, for some words.
Thank you. On behalf of the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, I want to thank UNEP for the invitation, and I'll say that we are delighted in joining you today for the launch of a toolkit on environmental youth engagement, and also to thank the young people who are involved in this initiative for standing up for the planet and developing this timely resource that will guide your actions as you confront the current and recent realities of the state of our planet. Young people bear the least responsibility for environmental crises that we face, but yet yet they are the most affected and likely bear the impacts for a much longer period. Therefore, it's an interest for young people to be engaged, involved, and take action if we are to face this crisis. Engagement for the youth, of course, brings to the table new ideas, energy, and vitality. That is very important to drive the change, shape the sustainable future for all of us. It's also in the interest of the youth to participate and raise their voices and concerns, which unfortunately has for far too long been sidelined in decision making, not often considered in national or multilateral processes. disconnected, I want to applaud UNEP on their launch of this toolkit, an important resource for young people to reduce the environmental footprint and mobilize actions for pro-environmental change in our communities. As partners under the ACP MEA3 program, we wish you every success in this initiative and that hope that your efforts will inspire a movement that will link with other existing youth networks beyond Europe to include Africa, the Caribbean and Pacific region. I thank you very much.
Victor, thank you so much. We go to Luis now, but before we go to Luis, can I just check online if everything works, if you can hear us well and see the presentation to come? So it looks, yeah, it looks okay. So super, thank you very much for confirming that.
And
Wow.
I will give Vala the first word to respond. I will give,
Thank you. Very good morning. We have 4 of the authors of this toolkit in this room. So let me start recognizing them as we start. Ivan Anna Prasad, Lars Wasser, Amayal Garza, and Paul Holz. Great to have you. A brilliant piece of work that we'll be launching today. Colleagues from the European Commission, European Union, Aurelie, Peter, Veronica, colleagues from the Commission, colleagues working in Europe on a number of environmental issues, connecting youth, colleagues from UNEP and representatives from UN agencies, and more importantly, those who actually have joined us online for this particular event. Of course, it's a significant milestone, not just in the context of the project or the program that we are speaking about here, the ACP MEAs, but overall in the context of UNEP itself. When we started looking at how to engage youth in some of our programs, and we started with the ACP MEAs as a starting point, we actually had a consultation with a number of youth just to understand what their preferences, priorities, interests are to engage. And the result of it, we realized that there are 3 things which a lot of us, even today, are struggling to come to grips with when we are talking of dealing with environmental change, environmental management, which certainly can be addressed by engaging with youth. The first point is that the engagement or the interest of youth in some of these issues comes out of their passion to the environment. It is not because of the jobs they have. It is not because of the salaries they get. It is because of the passion. And today, if you look at the most successful environmental activities that are people-led, citizen-led, for example, bird watching, for example, ornithology, you can understand that the biggest success of people or ornithology or bird watching is because of the interest of people. A large number of people who do it are not botanists, not zoologists, not environmentalists. But they have an interest, they have a passion. So that makes the youth as significant drivers of change in the way we wanted to work on environmental behavior, environmental change. The second thing is that we always talk about mainstreaming. How do we work with different sectors, people with different backgrounds and interests? And the youth group actually provide us that opportunity, because when we are talking of youth group, not all of you are environmentalists. Some of you work in finance, some of you work in management, some of you work in education, management. The areas of interest and the career paths that you have chosen for yourself is very, very diverse. Bring all of you to is that understanding. Engaging with youth, we already are ticking the box of mainstreaming. We are working with, to an extent, what we all aim for. So that's the second biggest advantage of working with youth. And third and most important is that the way you can communicate and connect with people. And yesterday there was a very passing comment which really caught my attention. Is that even today, even if you take UNEP or UN, we look for ambassadors to push our agenda. But for youth, you look at influencers. And for those of us who focus on social sciences or behavioral sciences, there's a lot of difference being an ambassador and being an influencer. So certainly the way you're able to connect, you're able to see some of these things from your perspective is what makes that engagement with youth extremely important and extremely well. When we started working on it, we discussed what is that we can do differently. And one key message that came from all the consultations we had was, please do not look at having one workshop, one training program and say we have empowered youth. It's not enough because we do not speak the language that you environmentalists and UN professionals speak. We speak very different language. So we need more capacity, we need mentorship, we need some level of handholding, and most importantly, we want to do something on our own based on the knowledge that we acquire so that we own what is being done. And that is why when we started the Youth Empowerment and Training Initiative at UNEP, we consciously made an effort that we will not do a training program, we will not do a workshop, but we will do a mentorship program. So we have had completed one cycle with Africa where the Youth 30 used 6 reports in support of the Global Biodiversity Framework under the Convention on Biological Diversity. And here we are also celebrating the European Year of Youth. 2022 is European Year of Youth, where you all have come together. And to tell you, for those who are not a part of this process, this entire thing is not just led by all of you, but you are the ones who developed it, you are the ones who finessed it, you are the ones who are going to be presenting it. But then, certainly from me, I don't want to leave the responsibility of making that change. And we all in the room should take that collective responsibility of making that change happen. So certainly in that regard, we are extremely pleased that we are able to pull this together. Thanks to all of you and thanks to Louis' brilliant job of pulling all this together. And from UNEP, we are very, very happy that we are here to launch the toolkit and hear from you on what we should be doing differently in days and years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for these informative and empowering welcoming remarks from Veronica, Aurélie, Peter, and Bala. Also from my side, a warm welcome to everyone. I had the honor to work from the ACP MEAs side with these amazing youth and the ones who are joining us online on this toolkit, and I'm very excited to finally launch it and hopefully inspire a lot of young people to start getting engaged and to start leading for environmental change now. Given that bit of multitasking. Given that it is a broad area you can get engaged in, we divided it in 4 levels in how you can engage as a young person. On an individual level, what you can do in your home, how you can change your behaviors towards a more sustainable lifestyle. On a national level, so in your schools, in your universities, in your neighborhoods, as well as in your country. Then in the 3rd chapter, you find more information on how you can engage on an international level, so in the EU, in UNEP, in the UN system in large, in NGOs. And in the last chapter, you find some input and very hands-on, step-by-step guidance on how you can get engaged on a social media level and how you can use social media to mobilize youth and other people. So before we start, may I quickly walk you through the agenda? So we will now hear our 2 presentations of the first youth authors who developed the first chapters of the toolkit. We will skip, given the time, we will skip the first Q&A, and I please ask you, everyone who is joining us online or inside, keep your questions for the second Q&A. So we will have a short break, and afterwards we will continue with the other 2 presentations of our youth authors of the other 2 chapters, followed by a Q&A. So I invite everyone to ask questions here on site or online. And then we open up this discussion for a more broader exchange of ideas and experiences of you here and online about foreign and youth engagement. And then we will hear from Bala, some closing remarks and some insights into future plans from ACP MEAs about youth engagement. So with that being said, one reminder is we will record the meeting, and there will also be taking some photos. If anyone feels uncomfortable, please let us know and we won't use the photos for any further purposes. And with that being said, I want to hand it over now to our youth authors, Anael and Anael and Charlie. Charlie, sorry. Charlie, I hope you're here. Let's get started. Over to you.
So when discussing the environment with my friends, I often hear this sentence: but what's the point of acting as young individual towards protecting the environment? What about the private sector and the governments? What me, a drop of water in the ocean, could I do? Nothing. What if we told you today that we, as young people, have the right to crave change? What if we told you today that we, as young people, can change the course of things? It is a necessary shift that we are capable of doing. High inequality can be observed across countries in their contribution and suffering in relation to the environmental crisis. Many high-income countries, including European countries, produce more global ecological damage than low-income countries. So shifting individual behavior towards a more sustainable direction is also imperative to reduce emissions, particularly by people in well-off countries. Did you know that the energy consumption by EU households contributes to a quarter of the EU's total greenhouse gas emissions? European countries have agreed to keep global heating below 1.5 degrees Celsius in the Paris Agreement. So for this to happen, each household needs to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to 2.5 tons of CO2 per year by 2030, knowing that right now, the current average of the EU per householders is 10 tons of CO2. Depending on different external and internal factors, each of us has an impact on the environment. Living more sustainably is often seen as expensive, time costly, and hard, but this does not have to be necessarily the case, and it is more about reconsidering, changing habits, and consuming less, which will also save you some money. We are going to give you the tools to shift your daily behavior at home and consuming towards a more sustainable one, and to give you the trust in our future we need. You would just need to change some simple daily aspects of your life. Some actions are taken in your kitchen or your bedroom, or even on your investment, and they will give you the chance to believe in a brighter future. The first tip takes place in the kitchen. It is about the food that you eat. Avoid wasting food. Would you go to a supermarket, buy 6 food bags, and throw right away one away? Statistically, that is what's happening in our food today. We throw away about 70% of the food we buy. I decided to limit my food waste. I'm very careful about the quantity I cook, and I share the extra food I have with my neighbors or my friends. Then I realized I had fewer beans to take out and saved such an amount of money each month, and we know how needed is it for students, right? The second tip in the kitchen is eat a most plant-based diet. For the most carnivores among us, we're asking you for a drastic and believable change. What about beginning with a small, tiny step? It would cost you no less than saving money, protecting your health, and taking care of the environment. Try to cut your meat consumption by at least a day per week, or more if the challenge is too easy. How many days is a simple day per week in a lifestyle? Let's say you live 65 more years. It would be more than 3,000 days without eating meat. Now imagine the enormous impact on our carbon footprint if only 5% of the European population follow the same path. And you just do not eat meat a day per week. The second lifestyle change concerns the bedroom, more especially the clothes that you wear or do not wear, but still buy. Not only that the big fast fashion industry of clothes is crazy polluting, but to get so many in the market at such a cheap price means that someone needs to pay the price that we do not pay. The price that we do not pay does not pass on the profit of the companies. It passes on to the workers. Have you ever heard of the working conditions of these employees or the salary they get at the end of each month? The climate transition cannot happen if it does not follow climate justice. Climate justice leaves no one behind. Climate justice means that we act not only to preserve our own environment, but to preserve others. In addition, do you know what happens to all the clothes that are thrown away? Have you ever heard of the Guantanamo market in Ghana, where every grain of sand on the beach appears to be a grain of clothes? We have not even spoken about the required energy to maintain such a just-in-time industry. We can have a big impact on this industry and at the same time save money. We have the consumer power. What is our advice? Avoid impulsive purchase. Maintain your clothes and upcycle. Try to buy second-hand clothes. This is second-hand clothes. And most of the time, the second-hand clothes are less expensive than the new clothes. Moreover, if you need something new, buy clothes with sustainable fabric and production, while staying away from synthetic fibers such as polyester or polyamide. Why? Because microplastic gets into the water every time you wash them. So now, the third lifestyle change concerns mobility and transport. Mobility is completely dependent on your environment, the place you live in, the opportunity of transportation you have around, and the price of it. We will not be able to make a general statement on how you can be the most efficient to reduce your carbon footprint. However, in your daily life, try to take the bike for short travels, the public transportation, as the bus, the metro, or the train when you have the opportunity and you can afford it. And finally, if you buy a car, try to choose the most energy economic one. On the other hand, you can adapt your holiday plan. Europe is a beautiful and diverse continent to explore. Instead of booking your next plane ticket to another continent, plan your next trip within Europe with environmentally conscious and cheap travel options by bus, such as Flixbus, or train, Interrail. You can also apply for a Discovery EU travel pass, or you can also explore eco-conscious projects and accommodation by using Woofing. Find more exciting, sustainable, but existing traveling opportunities in the toolkit. You can find them in the toolkit.
Well, so now that we have touched on 3 examples of room-based issues, let's focus on general recommendations to reconsider your habits and change them to make life more sustainable in your home. Let us start with a well-known material, plastic. You've probably heard that according to a report of the NGO WWF, the microplastic we are eating every week, and I stress that point, every week, is approximately the equivalent of 1 credit card, which is, by the way, about 5 grams. As you can imagine, there is a strong link between the way we consume and our health. I know this statement may scare you, and you probably feel uncomfortable with this news. But there are little actions that you can take or avoid in order to reduce or even end your contribution to the massive plastic pollution and to also live a healthier life. Thirdly, in the bathroom, you can use reusable hygiene articles, like for instance menstruation cups or toothbrushes with changeable heads. Then, in the bathroom and the kitchen, try to avoid plastic, but not just the visible ones like the plastic packaging, but also the invisible ones. I know this might sound spooky, but many liquids you use, such as your shampoo or detergent for the washing machine, contain microplastic or chemicals that are harmful for when released in the water cycle. By now, many microplastic-free products exist in Europe that are not necessarily much more expensive. For example, solid soap, shampoo, or toothpaste. One way to limit this consumption is also to prefer to go to unpackaged shops. Another aspect we are all familiar with is also consumption of energy. Nowadays, with some nuances, of course, we individually use more energy than ever in our time, and in so many ways that sometimes it's hard to realize it. But don't worry, here again, there's a lot we can do with only very simple actions. And guess what? You'll even be able to save money at the same time. Again, the first tip that we can recommend you is to disconnect your electronic devices from the electrical circuits. Indeed, when you are not using them, they are constantly and vainly consuming energy. It won't ask you to make big efforts, and at the same time, you'll save money. The second one would be to choose a renewable energy supplier. Even if perfectly clean energy does not exist, renewable energies have the better potential for us to consume energy without the damage that fossil energies have on climate change, for example. That's the reason why you should be particularly vigilant about the sincerity of those suppliers that are not always as green as they claim to be. Another point tip is to be conscious about your video consumption. Everything that happens on a screen is using energy, but watching videos and movies are the most energy-consuming activities that you were having on a screen. It can be a good thing to keep in mind that, according to one of the last reports of the Shift project, a French think tank, digital technologies are nowadays representing 10% of the energy produced in the world and about 4% of the global carbon dioxide emission. Even more terrifying, the global industry of the digital is consuming as much water, materials, and energy as a third times of a country like France or the UK. Also, it seems important to stress an action that we are not doing concretely at home, but which is directly linked to the household level: the choice of your bank. The idea is to consciously choose where you put your money. Indeed, did you know that when you put your money in a bank account, it leads to lots of investments? Well, now I'll let you imagine where the more profitable sectors are, not the greener ones for sure. So if you choose well, you can at least avoid problematic investments, but also choose to put your money in a green bank, which will invest your money in sustainable projects. By the way, you can find a list of these banks in the toolkit. So now, we hope that with this small presentation, we could reassure you that your daily choices at home and your consumer behavior matter. So I can recommend you to take our toolkit this weekend, rethink your habits, and start with easy behavioral changes you can make at home. And you'll see, sustainable behaviors can become habits. In the end, what's the most important? Give yourself objectives that fit you and try to stick to them. After all, every big marathon starts with a single step. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aline and Anaëlle, for this presentation and for providing us insight into how we can change our behaviors at home. And now we move to the next presentation and next focal area, which is presented by Anna and Paul, who will provide us more insights and tips in how we can engage on a local and national level. So over to you.
I sometimes ask myself the question whether I, a 19-year-old student, can really change something beyond my individual behavior. I'm sure I'm not the only young person questioning that impact, but after conducting in-depth research and developing this toolkit, I can assure you, yes, we young people can definitely make an impact on a local level. So in your community, in your school or university, and even on a national level in your country. by raising awareness in your circle of friends or family, your fellow students and neighbors, you can inspire others and become an ambassador for environmental change. In our toolkit, you will find both. You will find tips and guidance on how to engage on a community and national level, as well as a list of inspiration with projects where you can get involved in. So hopefully after our presentation, you will no longer ask yourself whether you can make a difference or not, but start making use of the possibilities existing and act now.
Schools. Sorry.
Yeah, I will present the first subchapter. So in our first subchapter, we addressed the question, how can I make a difference in my immediate environment? And the possibilities to engage on a community level vary from region to region, but they certainly exist in your surrounding. Yeah, we provide you a list with incredible projects where you can get inspired. And hopefully you will find one or the other project in your area and get involved. Or if not, you can get inspiration from projects elsewhere and start implementing your own initiative. We have put a special emphasis on projects that you can implement in your school or university.
Schools. Schools are the place where young minds are shaped, where interests are first piqued and developed. The time one spends there is a time of learning and of education. Therefore, it is the perfect place to teach students about climate change and what to do to prevent it. A great possibility to get started with engagement is to become a student representative or a member of a student council to get involved in the decision-making process of the school. Schools are not just a place where students can learn from teachers, but a place where peer-to-peer learning can take place. In the toolkit, you can find a list of projects you can implement in your school and sources you can use to help you. Also in the toolkit, we have included 6 tips anyone can follow on how to get started. From knowing the stakeholders of the school to performing a successful impact assessment of the project. Inspirations for engagement can be found all over the world. For example, the Hungarian youth delegate, Domokos Peter Kovács, who created a system in his school where trash cans are painted in different colors to promote recycling. Next slide. And just like in schools, your actions can contribute to sustainable change and inspire others. The initiative to create a more eco-friendly campus is the first in ensuring that our future leaders are made aware of the dangers of climate change and what to do to prevent them. Your engagement will increase environmental consciousness in your fellow students and provide them with sustainable habits that they will hopefully continue in their future. So what can you do to participate in all this? Well, a great start is to become active in a student association or to create one. Most universities have a representative system of some sort where you can get involved in the decision-making process of the campus. Another possibility is to become part of a student movement, Fridays for Future, or a local Greenpeace organization, etc. Several options are open to you, which are explained in the toolkit, depending on the region where you live. If you want to create your own association, you can get in touch with SS Environment via Instagram. It is important to know that no one is too small or too insignificant to make a difference. Every student in school and university can be part of the change. Activism in school and in universities is an immense step to ensuring the safety of our planet, but your activism does not have to end there.
In addition to countless possibilities that exist that you can implement in your immediate environment, there are also numerous opportunities to become active on a national level in your country. As an example, you can apply to become a UN youth delegate. Youth delegates are young people who represent the voice of their generation at national and international meetings. The role and mandate of youth delegates varies between countries. For example, in some European countries, there are youth delegates for biodiversity, and some European countries even include a youth delegate in their delegation for the General Assembly. And for example, at this year's United Nations Environmental Assembly, the youth delegate of Sweden even gave a speech instead of an adult delegate, which shows how seriously youth delegates are taken. And that actually to make a difference. So make use of your voice, get involved in country-wide initiatives, or start or get implemented and get involved in environmental decision-making processes. You can find further information and tips in our toolkit. I would therefore highly recommend that you take advantage of this. And next slide. Yeah, here you can see one page of our chapter of the subchapter focusing on school environmental engagement. So here, for example, you can find a list with resources that you can use to start action in your school. And here in the info box on the right, you can see hands-on tips by an expert.
No, thank you.
So start.
Thank you so much, Paul and Anna, for raising awareness and motivating us to take action on a local and national level. Given the time, I would propose we have a short break of, let's aim for 5 minutes. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt before the break. I know this is a tricky time, but I just wanted to take the opportunity because I may have to disappear later on, but I wanted to really thank you for the presentations, and I will listen to the other presentation, but probably online. This was fantastic to hear all the tips that you summarized on the different levels, the practical tips, but also how to influence, how to get into the decision making. And it was really important to hear for young people, it's important to start from the very beginning, from the school representation and upwards. And one thing I wanted to mention, and I think that it will be mentioned later on, so sorry to do it now, is that you as young people are also influencing the politics through your positive pressure on how do you want the world to look like, how do you want to look your community, your country to look like. So it's important that you do constantly provide the feedback to the decision makers and politicians. And you yourselves might be politicians also, which would be great and very encouraging for all of us to hear that. And the schools, whether it's primary, secondary, or university, that where the first formation starts. So it's please do continue what you are doing. And I really wanted to congratulate you how you formulated very nicely, yet very strongly what can be done. And it can be done easily, actually. So bravo.
Thank you so much, Veronica. And I think that were really very empowering remarks to start the break. So thank you, and we see each other at 11. Thank you, and thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We are still missing some colleagues, but I would say we get started again. We will now hear from Teresa and I some tips and insights how you can engage on an EU and international level in the UN system or in NGOs. Unfortunately, we cannot reach Aisu. She was supposed to come and be here today. So I asked Teresa kindly to, for now, present the whole chapter. And yeah, hopefully she will arrive somewhere. So Teresa, thank you that you are joining us here online, and over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we did the chapter on how to engage on a EU and international level. And yeah, I'll start now. Our world, our environment is changing. Unfortunately, not in a good way. Climate change has a lot of devastating results on humanity. Working in unity for climate change has a crucial role in the international arena since it affects all people's life as well as nature. We are the largest young generation in history, and we do have the power to contribute to pro-environmental change, particularly if we work together beyond our nation borders. By exchanging viewpoints, experience, and knowledge with each other, we can achieve and learn how to prevent at some levels. Engaging with international organizations can lead to significant positive change on the environment. Most of the time, young people want to engage with the environmental protection activities. However, they don't know how. At this point, our toolkit is here to help. And next slide, please. There are plenty of opportunities to actively participate in these activities within the EU system, the European Union, and other non-governmental organizations. At the UN level, next slide. And there are several options to participate and engage in environmental programs. I'm going to present some examples where I'd like you to ask yourself a question first. Would you like to foster green job development, support ocean salvation, or take part in informing other young people around the world about several actions against the climate crisis? If you answer any of those questions with a yes, then you should have a look at the UNEP youth programs and initiatives, which are offering many options for young people to engage in environmental politics all around the world. One example would be the Youth Empowerment Training Initiative, short YETI, within which we created this toolkit. During the process, I was learning not just from experts, but also from other young leaders I was working with. Due to the personal exchange, I got to know new initiatives to participate in. I was inspired to take personal actions, and furthermore, I gained insights into how other young people experience the climate crisis. Working on the toolkit was therefore not just about attaining knowledge, but also about getting inspired by other young leaders with knowledge from all of us and the different perspectives and the vision for the future. We were able to create an amazing toolkit with hopefully will inspire other young people to take action as well. But if you're more interested in green economic development, for example, you could join the initiative Green Jobs for Youth, which, among other things, tries to improve education for green careers and pave the way to a green job pathway. Another option to participate in the UN system is being part of a UN Youth Task Force. Those task forces consist of young people who are elaborating strategies concerning different environmental topics. There are several youth task forces in which you can participate in, like, for example, the Stockholm Plus 50 Youth Task Force, which facilitates youth engagement in the Stockholm Plus 50 meeting process, or the Youth Task Force of the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, which is responsible for youth engagement in the UN Decade on ecosystem restoration context. For the latter, you have, for example, the option to take part in conferences, contribute possible solution, motivate other young people to act, or provide them the possibility to talk to experts. Next slide, please. At a EU level, as at the UN level, there are many possibilities to engage in. Firstly, I would like to talk about Young European Ambassador initiatives by the EU Neighbour East. The Young European Ambassador Initiative, short YEA, is a multicultural and diverse network connecting young people from different EU member states, like Armenia, Belarus, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Ukraine, and the Republic of Moldova, and the United Kingdom. It enables you to participate in regular training sessions to gain knowledge on EU-related topics like environment, biodiversity, and like related issues. From various experts, gain knowledge from from various experts such as the EU official diplomats, journalists, and EU neighbor teams, etc. As the YEAs, you can also create your own project, and the EU even provides monetary assistance for some of them. To be part of the YEA initiative, you can apply once a year. Two of my colleagues, Aisu and Anna, are young European ambassadors, and they have been spending quality time while experience and learning new things in there, such as global environmental actions, feminism, and women empowerment, etc. You can find more detailed information about that in the toolkit. And next slide, please. Another opportunity that I want to talk about are non-governmental organizations on a EU level, besides many other organizations. And like on the UN level, you can also engage in like very different NGOs. And one of that could be the Connect for Climate NGO. It's a global partnership program launched by the World Bank Group and the Italian Ministry of Environment, and joined by the German Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. It promotes solutions for climate change and empowers people to act on an international level. You can share your stories about your experience in environmental engagement or directly participate in the program. Next slide, please. The three key elements, what to expect from your environmental engagement on an international level. I think there are three key elements. The first one is that you can participate in international environmental policy and decision making. The second is that you can understand the current environmental influence in different countries out of the exchange with the other people. And the third is that you have possibilities to connect and join forces with other young people fighting for their future. But the most important thing to understand on an international level is that every young person on this planet can be part of the environmental development fighting the climate crisis. That young people can have an influence when they are working together internationally has been shown by the Fridays for Future movement. Young activists like Adenik Oladosu from Nigeria, I'm really sorry if I pronounced her name wrong here, Julieta Itzovic from Argentina, Luisa Neubauer from Germany, and of course Greta Thunberg from Sweden have shown that young leaders working together for the same cause can have a huge international effect. Next slide, please. Here you can see how our toolkit is structured, which is like the same way as we are presenting it right now. It starts with the UN system, then we're going to the EU level, and closing it with the NGO level. Next slide, please. Talking about, or going back to this international leaders, I want to close with a quote from Greta Thunberg, which underlines that there's hope that we as young people working together on an international level can have a real impact. In an interview with The Nation, she said, "When I'm taking action, I don't feel like I'm helpless and that things are hopeless, because then I feel like I'm doing everything I can, and that gives me very much hope, especially to see all the other people all around the world, the activists who are taking action and who are fighting for their present and for their future." Thank you.
Thank you so much, Teresa, for your presentation and for providing us insight into the possibilities existing on the EU level, in the UN system or in NGOs. And we now move to our last presentation, which will be focusing on how youth can engage through social media communication and mobilize others to take action, which will be presented by Lars and Lily, who is joining us online. Hi, Lily, I can see you. Yeah, the floor is yours.
So, hello everyone. Thank you for being there with us today. So we, along with my colleague Lars Besset and myself, will present to you our toolkit on leading pro-environmental change through effective social media communication. So as a short introduction, we have chosen 5 different social media. We have chosen Facebook and YouTube because they are the mainstream media that where we thought that youth could reach out to diversified population category, but also Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, because this is where youth will be able to reach out to youth. But I mentioned the social media. You might wonder why we have chosen to work on social media and what impact can social media have. Next slide, please. So social media can be a crucial tool to fight against climate change. As you can see on the graph on the left, these are the Google results for climate change after Greta Thunberg's interventions. So you can see how awareness raising can lead to mobilization, people wondering what is exactly climate change, what can I do against it? And in turn, this kind of mobilization can lead to political action, to political stakeholders taking action. However, social media is unequally accessible and unequally mobilized by youth. Next slide, please. Indeed, these constraints are the result from several factors. And the results are that those we see online the most are frequently white and often male. This is a result of capacity constraints such as internet access. As you can see on the graph, internet access is highly unequal around the globe, but also of lack of know-how. People don't project themselves into climate influences. Also, social media bears high risks for young people. It can be about hate speech, it can be about harassment, it can be about scams or silencing. And this is especially true for youth from marginalized community. And this is also why we only see those who are privileged, who are white and male online. And these are the issues that we try to address in our toolkit, as my colleague Lars will present to you.
Introduction. So I want to talk about our working process, about our goal, and finally I'll give you a sneak peek into our toolkit. Yes, perfect, that's the right slide. So as Bala said in the beginning, we are all very different and unique, and I think that's wonderful. So we had to really learn how to figure out our skills, strengths, and weaknesses, and do all that online. In fact, we met for the first time in presence right here, and I think that worked great. The key challenge was really to manage our scarce resources, which was mostly time, and to coordinate ourselves. So how did we do that? Well, we used all kinds of brainstorming tools that we found online. Some knowledge we already brought to the program, some was provided by us, but it was very much a peer-to-peer learning step. And we came up with this 10-step structure that was really useful because it led to a division of responsibilities while keeping everybody kind of in the same uniform structure. That made it easier to divide our tasks and to manage the capacities. And also it made it easier for our cooperation partners, for whom we are very thankful, Louise, of course, for organizing all of that, to give feedback and to actually understand what we were doing. So next slide, please. Our goal was to help create a pro-environment network effect. To achieve that, our chapter aims for a low entry barrier and ensures that everybody can use it. We believe that this toolkit can help increase online presence and visibility of young voices and lead to behavioral change and sustainable action within the social media space. Well, the idea is to create a network effect, but what does that mean? We understand that it means to create a positive feedback loop of actions that support each other, adding up to a whole that's bigger than its parts. Hopefully, young people will be able to inspire more and more people online, also global intergenerational. That would be wonderful. So let's take a look at the actual toolkit. Next slide, please, and show you an example of how our structure looks like. Next slide. This is the page for Instagram, and as you can see, it's a bit small, but it has 8 steps on that page and an introduction to Instagram as well. All of these pages, all of these structures are considered to be roadmaps. They offer a possibility, a possible order of steps, and they will create a successful social media presence if followed correctly, but the structure is not to be followed strictly. It is really a sense of guidance. It's really like when you're looking for the first step, or maybe the third step or the 5th step, you can check there. And there are some clear formulated steps of action that we consider to be necessary in best practice, such as creating a strategy before you start posting, informing yourself about current trends, and interacting with your community frequently. Some of the other steps that are more in detail have hyperlinks, and you also have hyperlinks to find more inspiration, as the toolkit was very much designed for brevity. So each of the social media networks that we covered is different and has different rules, if you will. So we try to go into detail as much as possible while keeping it short. I think that the result does speak for itself there. And again, we're very, very thankful for all the work that was put in by experts afterwards to help us achieve this brevity. Next slide, please. What we consider to be very important are our info boxes, because as Lily said in the beginning, social media is not an easy environment and definitely carries risks. So we created and prominently placed information boxes to raise awareness of what we believe to be the most important things to consider when engaging online. The first one is definitely mental health and online safety. You have to watch your exposure to social media. You should listen to your feelings and reflect on them. How does it make you feel? Does it make you feel uncomfortable? And if so, what can you do about it? Well, we placed links and information about educating yourself in the impacts. Another important thing I want to stress is that your words matter. Small changes to language can have a great impact on the reader. For example, it is useful to say climate crisis instead of climate change. It is useful to say global heating instead of global warming. It does lead to a change. It is a small detail, but we cannot stress it enough. And finally, borrowed from Cameron Brick, the 3 R's to inspire action. The first one is reality. The climate crisis, of course, is real. And if we do nothing, it will get worse. The second R, risk. Doing nothing carries huge risks, and negative surprises are probable. And finally, response. And to sort of finish on a positive note, there is so much we can do, and the sooner the better. And engaging in this program has definitely made me more hopeful and optimistic that the next generation, as well as the current generation, can do so much to turn things around. Thank you, and now back to Lily.
So thank you, Lars, for this very, very interesting presentation of both our toolkit and the process. So we have introduced you to our toolkit, showcasing how social media is a very powerful tool which can be leveraged by youth to raise awareness and lead to political and environmental action. We have detailed the process that enables us to create our toolkits, showcasing that young people have the organizational skills and autonomy to create such tools for themselves. We are very thankful to the United Nations Environmental Program, to the European Union, to the ACP MEAs 3 program, and all the experts involved in the YETI, Youth Empowerment Training Initiative, for their support and guidance. All in all, we were 4 groups of young people from all over Europe presenting you today the toolkits we designed for our peers. We are convinced that the momentum towards the fight against climate change cannot be built without the impulse of us youth, of course, but also that no action will be possible without the support from the UN and international organizations, from governments all over the world, and from individuals holding power. We hope to be able to count on your support during the upcoming years to help us and the future generations continue living in the environmental conditions that you have benefited from. We look forward to the upcoming discussion and will be pleased to discuss any questions you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, dear Lily, for joining us online and for your presentation. And dear Lars, thank you as well for providing us insights into the focal area of the toolkit. I want to now open up the room for any questions to our youth authors about the 4 chapters. And then we will move on to a general discussion about youth engagement. But first, I will ask anyone who wants to say something in the room or online to just raise their hands. So yeah, we can unmute you to speak. And here, feel free to ask anything. Yes, please. Okay.
Well, thank you, Louise, if you want me to break the ice with the first question. But so first, of course, thank you all for the great presentation. It's really a great product. I was very impressed, and I hope you enjoyed doing it. And I hope it brought you a lot, because this is really important that you to gain from it, and that helps to empower you. I really like your point about that we all matter, wherever we are and wherever we are, and we all have a role to play. I think this is a very inspiring message. It's very inspiring because it can help a lot people who feel powerless. And there's this decade has brought a lot of positive things, but there's also a lot of whatever international tension. Now we have the war in Ukraine, and there's a kind of anxious environment, and some people choose not to do anything anymore because they feel that they have no impact. And so I really realize that with the small actions we can gain confidence, and indeed this brings benefit, as you put it rightly. It brings benefit, of course, for the planet or for your budget, but also for yourself as human being, and you feel much happier. So thanks a lot. This was very inspiring. I had on my to-do list to change bank. and so I am pleased to confirm that I'm going straight to go to Trio. What was your suggestions to change bank as a first to go to Triodos? Yeah. I wanted to say that, of course, on our side, we would be very happy to continue the conversation and to support you. So I'm happy to get feedback from you on what you need now to continue the journey. We discussed a bit with Veronica on how we can help promotion of the toolkit. There's a series of events that are taking place on the road to COP, where we could present the toolkit, give you the voice also to present your proposals. So I hope some of you can join. There's also the climate march this Sunday in Brussels. So I hope you will be able to join and ask other colleagues or friends to join. We will be there with my colleagues, of course. And the short point, this is about climate and the environment. So I'm glad that most of you have been covering the 2 dimensions, because, of course, we tend to focus on climate because everybody knows what are the 2 degrees and CO2. This is very concrete. But at the end of the day, this is about the planet and the environment, because even if we manage to stop the heating, there's still a destruction of ecosystems. And so I hope you can also contribute to put that clear, that this is at the end a planetary issue, of course, tackling climate and biodiversity crisis at the same time. But so a big thank you. And the floor is yours, Louise. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. And it would be certainly very helpful if we can move on with the discussion to look where we can disseminate this to hopefully empower as much as youth possible to start taking action. Are there any further questions? Yes, please.
Yeah. My name is Wietse. I'm a European Climate Pact ambassador, and I'm super impressed by your work. It seems like you're doing a lot of work, and it's really nice that you have the backing of such big international organizations. Ms. Aurélie Godefroy, I hope I pronounced your name correct, already said what the EU is doing in the youth empowerment. But another thing that we also do is the European Climate Pact. And I'm one of almost 850 ambassadors, of which many youth as well. And of those youth, also very young youth. So I would be very interested in exploring how we can get this toolkit to the ambassadors there. And perhaps you're probably very busy, but maybe you can jump in one of our next community calls to very quickly elaborate on what this is and how we can use it, because I think it will be very instrumental also for all the ambassadors in Europe trying to inspire action and communicate on environmental and climate matters in effective ways. So thank you so much, and maybe we can get in touch after for the presentation. Thanks.
With the YEAs, we just jumped into the EU Climate Ambassador. So we have some YEAs, which I'm part. So we presented it in the international chapter. And we're doing a partnership. So I think we can take out.
Good.
Yes, please. Well, thank you very much for the presentation and extremely eloquent. I think you've done a good job, and I was even whispering to my neighbor here that we really need to step down and let this youth now, run this whole thing, because you're very driven and very good ideas indeed and practical. I just wanted to, find out whether the toolkit can actually be utilized in other continents, for example, because you realize that the requirements of other continents are very different. For example, when we talk about food waste, there are continents who don't even have that food. Some of the people don't have the food, and so they waste, but they have other environmental challenges. And the impact of climate change the place may not contribute too much to climate, but they are getting the impacts. They're the ones who are caused by the impacts. So is there a way that the toolkit can also look at the uniqueness of, for example, Africa, maybe some Asian countries, and just tailor make it, because it's very good. They also have enthusiastic youth. They're doing a lot of work, yes, but this toolkit is really something that, if it's tailor-made to those specificities, I think would be really useful. Is there, something that you may want to work with your youth colleagues in the other continents?
Yeah, thank you for this input. And certainly, I mean, this Youth Empowerment and Training Initiative was in Europe, and therefore we also decided, based on the fact we all grew up in Europe, we will target Europe as such, because that's the context we know most of, and it would be, we're not feel comfortable to tell youth or give tips on youth in East Africa, for instance. But we certainly, and I hope Bala will elaborate on that, look for ways to create a similar toolkit for other youth in other regions, hopefully by youth from this region, for youth for this region, to join forces. But thank you so much. And as this already turns into discussion, I already put this slide, and I really want to open the discussion now to everyone joining us online and on site, to share insights, tips, and experiences you have on engaging on environmental issues on different levels for peers, but also as we have so many representatives by different organizations and partners. Raising a question to you. What do you think is important? How can youth engage in your networks and in your work, in your environmental decision-making processes, and maybe also giving tips to other colleagues how they could engage more youth. So I'm posing these questions here, and I'm looking forward to some inputs. We have
so many stakeholders from different regions outside of Europe. So it would be certainly interesting to hear also from them to not stay in Europe in this conversation. So yeah, open to you. And as I said online, please just raise your hand so we can unmute you, and then the floor is yours. Thank you.
Silence.
Yeah, please.
So I joined the Young European Ambassador that we spoke about maybe a year ago. And before a year ago, everything that I was doing was by my own, and I felt like I didn't have any impact, right? And when I joined them, I realized that thanks to the network, that we have many opportunities also to fund our projects. Because every time we want to do something, I mean, if we don't have like the minimum budget, it's kind of hard to make our voice heard, right? And so I would advise everyone to try to find some ways to look for funds. For example, in Europe, because I cannot speak about other continents, but in Europe, like check the websites of the European Commission, what they propose, the funds that they propose. You have Erasmus that is giving also a lot of money. I mean, you can also join a lot of networks that's going to give you, I mean, different initiative organization that will give you other like ideas or funds or, I mean, experience. And at the end, because you connect to people, you find some new ideas, some new initiatives, and then you finally realize that it's not so hard to act on your level. So don't hesitate, because the funds are here. You just need to find the information, which is the hardest, I would say, to find the information.
Which we provided the toolkit, right?
Which we provided the toolkit. Sorry for the word.
Yeah, no, because we actually, Anna, in your part, right? So in the part on local and national level engagement, we provide a list of funding opportunities and or organization providing funds. Very good point. Thank you, Anna.
Maybe I can add another
Yes.
point, if I may. My expertise, because I come from the Austrian student union, so my expertise is primarily focused on schools and on universities. And the tips I can give to people is to become active as soon as possible. In Austria, it's possible to become a student representative at the age of 15, which is very young, but it's not too young. The earlier you start, the more you can achieve, and nothing is impossible.
Thank you. Very empowering. Anything else? Yes, please.
So hi, I'm Benjamin. I'm 15 years old and I'm from Brussels. And so I'm a climate activist because last year during the floods in Belgium, a good friend of mine, Rosa, she died in the flood, she drowned. And since then I started this campaign called Climate Justice for Rosa to like tell the story about what happened, and that like climate change is here in Europe. It's all over the world, but like it's everywhere now. So we really need to convince people of the effects that the climate crisis can have, that people are dying, people are losing their homes. So it's very important that we're very ambitious and do everything we can to try to save the world, actually. So yeah, just be very ambitious, keep on going. And I really think something can change, because I've been like, and really like doing activism for like full time now for like a year, and I've getting in touch with all these very important people. I'm going to the COP, so really do everything you can, because we can really change something. So it's a very cool toolkit. So I'm really looking forward to reading it. So thank you.
Yeah. Yes, please.
One more.
Yes.
I'm challenged by 15 years, not in service, but 15 years in activism. He was born an activist. Thank you so much. He's, I think, maybe the youngest now. There is something that we would like to see further than this toolkit, and that is the outreach. And an outreach starts from one point and it spreads to the others. So there is activism that is already going on. And those are voices that will need to be recorded. Say from Europe, you record those voices. Those voices will be heard in Africa, Caribbean, and the Pacific regions. And they will hear there is something that is already moving on. in Europe, and they will say, why don't we join? Then for the ACP, there are countries in the ACP region that have projects, and these projects are touching on the same issues, diversity, climate change, some things on the oceans possibly. They are the same issues they want to hear. And if they hear there is something happening on one side, you'll be surprised with the ACP projects. Even if it was not in their program, it will be adjusted to include youth as part of a gender perspective, possibly as part of the gender perspective. It becomes more active. Thirdly, there is the universities, it's called GUPES, a group of universities dealing with environmental sustainability. You can search it. It's there online. It's called GUPES. It's so many universities, like last year, 2021 in Glasgow, they made some declarations as universities for net zero carbon dioxide and I don't know, production or whatever the language they use. And out of that, the universities all over the world, they have come together on one common aspect. So we carry the same message, what GUPES is doing and what ACP MEAs is doing, and push it once again back to the countries as an outreach that has not been had outside of Europe. If that would be a position, then you would do a toolkit version 2.0. This I hope is 1.0, a version 2.0, and say you can also do it in Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific. What would be the outcome of that? And then all the social media outlets that you're now using for this outreach. I'm not sure I have seen any one of them other than the ACP one. Now I didn't see the links. Maybe you need those links in the toolkit so that we are using your links to make our own and look as if it is ours, but we know where we borrowed it from. And then we start tweeting one another, and we will build a very big community of those Twitter people, Twitter, and they will be able to communicate far and wide. That is what we have been missing. In Facebook, you read good stories. The meteorology department, they are now governments, are all of them in social media. That's where they are communicating. What an influence we'll be having with such an outreach, I think is something we need to see a version 2.0 of this.
Thank you for this remark. And yeah, definitely. We'll talk about the outreach and also how to access the toolkit afterwards. I mean, overall, it will be accessible on the ACP MEAs website. Yeah, I've also worked with UNEP and EU on the preparation for this event, and also already discussed some ideas on how we can move forward. Yeah, but certainly this needs to be expanded, and we can talk about this more. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to have the version 1.2. Anything is there anything online? No. Okay, so then we can.
So also answering to that and to what was said before, even though we might not have like detailed knowledge on kind of how to change things locally and internationally in other continents, I think that there's also the level of structuring a project, of soft skills, of proofreading, of providing experience, right? Because we've went through it now for a few months, and I'm sure that we've learned something, and we can share that. Maybe that will be also already be helpful. And I can only speak for myself, of course, but I would be happy to offer that kind of help, soft skills trainings or anything like that, if that would be helpful. Yeah, it would be great to continue, because it is a great project that I think would be great to continue and help other people everywhere. It would be nice.
Thank you, that's a very good point, and happy to facilitate as well. Yes, please.
Yeah, so with the kind of Green Deal, like two of the key pillars are like digital transformation and green transformations. I was kind of wondering, like, from especially from a youth perspective, like how can we reconcile like a digital transformation that involves like an intensification of kind of energy use and a green transition that kind of involves a reduction of energy use? I just wanted your kind of perspectives on that, if that would be okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I think it's a wonderful topic. So I'm part of Generation Climate Europe in the Circular Economy Working Group, and we work on just that digitalization and how we kind of see it as that is an opportunity as well as a challenge, right? Like, in order to be able to reduce our energy flows, we have to first be able to actually see them and to actually understand our resource flows, our energy flows, and this is only possible through digitalization. And only if we make that first step, we'll be able to actually go for all these amazing goals of energy efficiency and net zero and what have you. But we have to do the first steps first. And I think that there's like great opportunity, but we cannot allow ourselves to go in the wrong direction and then change course. We have to get this one right from the beginning. So yeah, I think that this is actually a great combination of making digitalization work for energy efficiency. And I think there's also a lot of great content online. We just have to kind of make it visible and accessible.
If I may add to that, you make a good point. Social media does contribute to environmental destruction, but I think what we need to do is we need to reach young people, and we need to create some sort of spark in them. And the best way to do that is via social media, because that's, at least for me, that's about the only medium I use to consume media. I don't watch TV anymore. I don't read newspaper. I just get it from the internet. And if we want to make an impact, especially with young people, we need to use social media. Maybe in the future we can get away from it. Maybe we can reduce the digital infrastructure a bit. But for now, it's important to get as much outreach as possible, and that is only possible via social media.
Thank you for that. Very important point, of course. I see we have a guest, Jennifer Vionnet, who wants to contribute to the discussion. So please, Jennifer, just unmute yourself, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. It's very nice to be here. I'm Jennifer from CITES, so the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Animals and Plants, and we're basically regulating wildlife trade so it doesn't impact the species in the wild, basically. And it's really nice to be here, and there's a lot of information that was really useful, and I just wanted to jump in here to add kind of to the list of things that youth can engage in if they wanted to, and because we're kind of starting to create a youth network in our organization where we can also train the youth to understand how we work, and we're part of UNEP as well. So to get it, I think, as everyone here knows, I feel like it's really important that youth is more heard and involved in these decisions. And so it was just kind of to jump in there and say that basically we will launch soon a youth network as well. And I see in the chat that some people are interested in getting involved in different organizations. So just like to have a look at our website as well, and feel free to contact us if you want to get involved and are interested in these things. So that's all for me. I thank you so much for the opportunity, and it's really nice to see all of this inspiring conversation, and that everyone is very keen on making things change for the best. So thank you.
Thank you so much, and also for raising awareness on the network you're planning. If you haven't done so far, because at the moment I don't have access to the chat, please share your website in the chat.
Yeah, we'll do right now. Thank you.
Yeah, so over to you. You also have.
Yes, hi, morning. Thank you so much for your presentation. I just wanted to add a bit on
what Margaret was saying. I work for the UNEP in the wider Caribbean region. So that would be very interesting to see how we can apply the toolkit and engage with youth. Just as an example, we just launched like a small grants program to support NGOs and community-based organizations, research organizations in preventing marine litter and working on conserving biodiversity in the coastal areas, so in various islands like Jamaica, Cuba, Honduras, and so on. So we're very interested to see how we can kind of engage youth there also, and just see how to apply the toolkit, because like Margaret said, some of the realities are quite similar, but then it can still be kind of tailored maybe a little bit more to the realities on the ground. And yeah, very interesting indeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And yeah, obviously we have already talked bilaterally, and it's certainly very nice to spend in this region as well and support. If there are no more questions.
There is one comment online from Rukia, who says, how can the youth join some of these programs? And says that I have done the YETI program and it has transformed me.
I think, Bala, you're a good person to answer that as well.
Of course, I'll sort of answer to that in the closing remarks, but certainly we'll reserve that question.
Yeah, reserve the question. Yeah, nice to have you here. Rukia was part of the Youth Empowerment and Training Initiative in East Africa that we rolled out, where they, as a result, not created a toolkit, but 6 reports combined in 4 reports informing the 2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. Mary, I see you're raising your hand, so please go ahead.
Hi everyone. Hi Luisa. Yeah, I think Bala will give his remarks on Rukia's question, but I also wanted to give some suggestions. For example, there are so many emails, opportunities that I receive and I usually forward to the youth, and opportunities such as a fellowship from Africa Wildlife Fund, amongst so many other opportunities. And these are, like, I think us as ACP MEAs, we can give our YETI youth priority in these opportunities. And there are so many opportunities. So that is one way we can involve our youth to be further engaged in additional activities. And then another contribution is that since YETI has so far been working towards the Convention on Biodiversity, we can also involve them in upcoming COPs. We can engage them in other sectors beyond the CBD, and that's also one other way they can get involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. For those who don't know Mary, she was leading the Youth Empowerment and Training Initiative in East Africa, and therefore well connected to Rukia and other colleagues. If there are no, yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. Mine is just a remark because in regards to the ACP program, the ACP has been designed in such a way that it promotes South-South cooperation. That's mostly between the least developing countries. I would wanted to suggest that through the YETI program, let us also incorporate the North-South cooperation. So that's why we can have an interaction between youth in Europe and youth in the ACP target regions. So that at least I acknowledge that, for example, the issues of climate change and dealing with issues of net zero is more spoken in the European countries than in this global South. So through the youth, that information could flow down. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So my name is Federico Barbieri. I'm the president of the European Youth Energy Network. And I mean, first of all, congratulations for your amazing job. I think today we close a chapter, but we open a new one. And I think the new chapter is even more important than the previous one, because it's about disseminating these opportunities and this knowledge. Because I feel many times there's so many things online and people don't know where to find them. So, I mean, from my organization, we'll do our best to disseminate this. And also maybe not forget that this is a tool for young people, right? And when you talk about education, it's not just about young people that has to be educated, from my point of view. And I feel that, I mean, we as young people have the role in, okay, why not be able to propose policies? We don't have the 10, 15, 20 years of experience, but still we can provide a different perspective to policymakers. And that's also our role. It's first, okay, understand the environment, understand how things work, and then we can actually contribute and bring perspective on a local, on a European level. So this is very important, and because sometimes I feel that there is increasing generational gap, like we don't listen anymore to each other, because we think that these young people think that old people don't listen to us, and old people think that we don't have anything useful to say. And we need to invert this trend, and I think this tool is a good start to do that, and I encourage. I mean, who knows? Maybe we can also make a tool for older people. No offense. But I mean, we change is something we have to achieve together. So let's not work in bubbles and in generational bubbles. And I'm very happy to have a very diverse people, you know, around this table and online as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a very important comment to make. And I also at that point want to emphasize that I'm sure, obviously the target group is young people, but I'm sure that it is very informative for, I don't want to say old, but like older, like adults. Whatever. Older people, elder, that want to on how to engage youth, particularly people working in schools, working in universities, because it provides you an overview of, okay, what can I provide with certainly also international organizations and so on. So are there any more? Yeah, please.
Just a question actually building on that. If you could share, have you felt like you influenced other generations during your involvement in the creation of the toolkit, or maybe online also? That would be interesting. Like in your immediate environment or your, you know, universities, your peers, do you feel like you've kind of created some awareness in your own bubble?
I think we did, honestly. I mean, from my perspective, because basically all the toolkit is, as I said before, finding some information, and we took all the information we had, or the major information we had, we put it there. And even, you know, at least in my head, it structured all the way I did until now to be able to act towards protecting the environment. And because of all of that, I could explain better how I do and why I do it, and what I do as well to my surrounding. And speaking about the generational gap or not, I think because it's structured now, we can explain better, and so they would understand better, and then there is a real conversation happening. So I think, yeah, we did a change. I don't know how impactful it is, but at least to our surrounding, yeah.
You start somewhere, right?
Exactly.
Because I mean, I'm just reflecting now also myself. I started kind of working on marine litter 6-7 years ago. I was still at university or finishing, and it was, I don't know if you heard of Boyan Slat back then, who started the NGO, the Ocean Cleanup, and he was also, you know, quite young at the time. He was swimming. I think he was on holiday in Greece, and there was plastics everywhere where he was swimming in the ocean. So that's kind of triggered, you know, his whole involvement. And I think it was also then that, you know, the whole topic really started to gain momentum also, not just within the European bubble in Brussels, but, you know, much broader. So I think just encouraging. I think there's really a lot that can be done if youth is engaged. And just, yeah, keep going. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hannah, for this input. And are there any more questions? No, because or are there any more questions here online? Because otherwise, I would like to now hand it over to Balakrishna, who will provide us more insights into the future work on youth engagement by the ACP MEAs program and some closing remarks. So Over to you, Malek.
Thank you, Louisa. I know at least one new word I for the first time heard and learned today is goofing. We all have heard of goofing, but then goofing. So certainly, the lexicon of youth is something which is very interesting, and then very effective as well, because you're able to connect with your peers much more effectively than what we can do. Because many times when I get these LOLs and all that, I just don't understand what LOL means. But then it's such an effective way there. So thank you. And I was also quite, caught by this particular thing that you mentioned, that it's also the words that you use in terms of, is it a climate disaster, or is it climate change, or is it a climate crisis? Because that really connects with people much better. And I was just remembering a paper I read in 2004, which is called The Death of Environmentalism, where the author says that for countries that actually are in the temperate region, global warming is something which is very nice, rather than saying global heating. So certainly some of these things are extremely important and very valid in terms of what you've done, and congratulations. Great that we're able to work with you and launch it. A few very quick points before we wrap up, based on the comments we have heard, and also some of the plans that we have. First is adapting the toolkit. And of course, there's been some comments on how does it relate to youth in Asia, youth in Africa, and other regions. So certainly that is something which we'll be looking forward to. And our first call to help us with doing it to an extent will be you, because you are the ones who designed the first part of it. So certainly we will keep in touch and connect with you to see how much we can adapt this toolkit with relevant details, examples, networks, and people from the different regions who are a part of it. The second is that in preparation for the forthcoming 15th meeting of Conference of Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity, we are already working with the Global Youth Biodiversity Network, which you know is a network, and you're also connected with them, a network of youth focusing on biodiversity issues. And through the network, we actually are capacitating social media skills for the youth in preparation for CBD COP. So we are training about 45 youth from Africa, Caribbean, and the Pacific, which is the purpose of the program in terms of participation, but also we are supporting some physical participation of youth as well as at COP. A few points for us to start thinking about, especially all of you. We've been actively thinking in the last couple of months on this, is creating a network of alumni as well as creating a network of youth who basically you can reach out. So one call I would have, if possible, is that we have trained and we have several youth from Africa who are also the part of this program and who are here. So if my numbers are correct, we have trained 52 youth so far, 35 in Africa and about 16, 17 in Europe. So one request is that if you can consciously plan to influence 5 youth, each of you, in 2023, I think that will be a brilliant continuation of the program. Just 5 more people that you can work with, you can make that small incremental change in what they do, how they do. It could be brilliant because then organically the network will start growing as well. So that is a kind of a request to all the youth, both from Africa and Europe, who are a part of this program. So we are creating an alumni network. So details of it will be shared with all of you. And it will have 2 components. One, who are colleagues like yourselves who have worked with us. But then there was also this request, how can we be a part of a larger program and how can we? So we'll also have a general network, not necessarily people who either got mentored or trained as a part of the team. So that is something which we'll think about and get in touch with you as we do. We still have not, as a part of our commitment to Caribbean and the Pacific regions, started any focused interventions in the 2 regions. And discussions have already started. And we, based on our experience, because we have done different things in Africa compared to Europe. In Africa, the youth were oriented towards what is biodiversity, what is the convention, what is environmental rights, what is environmental governance. And based on that, we connected them with some mentors who focused on writing on their own the reforms in support of CBD culture. And here we worked on a totally different issue, which is on a toolkit related to environmental change. So two topics, suggestive topics from our side for Caribbean and the Pacific would be based on the inputs that we have received, which is also an important element of the toolkit, is preferably for Pacific, we focus on education in terms of how we can work with youth in the Pacific region in terms of targeting schools and universities in some of the recommendations you have put as part of your toolkit. And for Caribbean, to start focusing on the issue of the links between climate and biodiversity. Because to a large extent, a lot of us are familiar with climate change. We speak about it, a lot of interventions in support of mitigating or adapting to climate change. But the very fundamental element of adaptation is biodiversity, it's ecosystems. You can't do adaptation unless you focus on nature conservation and biodiversity. So the preferred topic for the Caribbean could be how the youth can be oriented, mentored, and trained to start looking at climate change not as an independent issue, but climate change and biodiversity as a kind of a complementary combined element of it. We're also working with the national delegations going for COP to see if some of the youth colleagues who are a part of YETI could be a part of the national delegation. And we will try our best and hard to make it happen. And actually, one of the youth who is already a formal part of the Finnish delegation, for example, has already been a part of our program. She had already spoken about her experiences of being a part of the delegation. We will try to continue exploring those options. Two other elements that are to link this, what is already happening. Theory, you're correct, because WUPES has been an important network, but then to an extent, it is a very passive network. It's still not an active network. I mean, even though we come up with some of these declarations, but we would like to make it very active. So we will definitely try to work with the Global University Partnership on Environmental Sustainability, or WUPES, led by UNEP. And more importantly, it was just coincidental that at coffee break, I was talking to Aurelie, saying that the Global Youth Biodiversity Network focuses on CBD and CBD issues, but then we do not have such focus on the other MEAs like CITES or CMS. And I was so happy immediately in a few minutes we heard that the CITES is already interested and are launching a youth related conference. So certainly we'll be very glad to be a part of that, to contribute to that, and also learn from that particular network. So certainly those are some of the quick follow-up actions concrete that we are now planning for the next year, 2023. And certainly all of it is only possible if you're all with us. And we hope that you will continue that engagement, and we will try our best to continue working with you. And certainly, a lot more to do. What we're doing today is just a first step of a long journey. But also, I would like to recognize the efforts you have put, because as I mentioned, that all of us have a paid job to what we are doing, but you're all doing it as a part of your interest and passion. So certainly, thank you very much for that. And then, I mean, because I'm just doing some personal remarks, can't thank enough all of you, but also the mentors. I mean, we had a brilliant set of mentors and people, experts who teach with you, and we have several mentors who also work with us with the African group of youth. So a big thanks to all of them, and we will formally recognize their support and contribution to helping. And also to our colleagues from the UNEP Brussels office. I mean, this would not have been possible because it was just an informal chat I had with Veronica when I was here a couple of months ago, and what we are doing. And suddenly we thought, no, why don't we launch it? And why don't we launch it in Brussels? And it will sort of be good. So thanks to Veronica, Julia, Elfie, Seniel, Maria, Leanne, and Alexa. Brilliant set of colleagues who really helped us to put this thing together today. And to all of those who've been a part of the online discussions until now, and those who are here in this room, all my colleagues from UNEP and participants here, but more importantly to Louisa, because she has been kind of a force behind pulling this entire thing together, very meticulous. So thank you, Louisa, for all the work. And of course, as Louisa mentioned, we started this work in Africa, and Mary was the one who, to an extent, initiated this entire thing a year ago. So thanks to Mary, who's online, for her support and inputs. And we look forward to continuing to work with you, and very encouraging to see the positive remarks from Aurelia as well in terms of the possibility. I mean, we're not looking at financial support, but we're also looking at some level of model and institutional and inspirational support coming from institutions. So certainly we are very, very grateful to all of you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Bala. Thank you so much, Bala. And from my side, there's nothing too much to be said, and only please, everyone joining us online, on site, use the toolkit. It is free to be downloaded, used, and shared by the large youth network on our website. Here's the link. And yeah, I want to encourage you to use this weekend to think of how you can engage the best way on these different levels. And then on Monday, you start your action, and hopefully we can make this pro-environmental change together. And hopefully this toolkit will be a guiding source and motivation. So thank you so much.